Well, it looks like everyone is back, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order for a regular meeting of the Chandler Unified School District Governing Board. Today is Wednesday, July 15th, 2020. Mrs. Nye, would you be able to please do our roll call?
Barb Marsden.
Here.
Laura Bruner.
Here.
David Evans.
Here.
Lindsay Love.
Here.
Karen Mcgee.
Here.
Thank you, Mrs. Nye. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And then afterwards, would you please, we will have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will go ahead and start with some of our routine business. Our first is to approve the minutes of the June 24th, 2020 regular board meeting. Could I please get a motion for that?
Madam President, this is Lindsay, and I want to make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 24th, 2020 regular board meeting as presented.
Is there a second?
This is Mrs. Mcgee, and I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the June 24th, 2020 board meeting, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Our next is to approve payroll for July 2nd, 2020 and our current expenditures. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, this is Lindsay again, and I'll make a motion to approve payroll for July 2nd, 2020 and current expenditures.
And this is Mrs. Mcgee, and I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving payroll for July 2nd, 2020 and our current expenditures, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Castile, do we have any correspondence? You're on mute.
No, I'm sorry, Madam President, we do not.
Thank you. And the next is yours, 4.01 and further is our consent agenda. Dr. Castile.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we have monetary gifts in the amount of $391.55 donated to various schools. We're requesting permission to accept items in the amount of $933.05. Recommending approval of the Governing Board's 2021 ASBA annual membership dues. It's 0.025% of the operational budget, but not more than $8,640. I think these next two items you're probably familiar with. We had a presentation on our cybersecurity program at Basha High. This is the Red Hat Academy program partners with academic institutions to offer top quality educational programs. It's curriculum resources, and it's part of our Basha High School Institute of Cyber Operations. It's a no-cost membership in accordance with ASRS 15721. The curriculum has been on display at the Melinda Romero Instructional Resource Center for the 60-day review. Also, our Cisco Networking Academy will provide curriculum resources for the Career and Technical Education Network Security Program, also at Basha High. Again, it's very nice. This is a no-cost curriculum for educational institutions. It's a comprehensive and flexible curriculum based on the latest advances in industry, along with resources to help teach. In accordance with ARS 15721, the curriculum has been on display for our community to view for the last 60 days. We have a memorandum of understanding between Chandler Unified School District and the College Success Arizona. This is the purpose of this memorandum of understanding is to continue the current collaboration between CUSD and CSA to increase the number of high school seniors who complete the free application for federal student aid. Most people know that as the FAFSA. Through a grant awarded to the CSA and its partners in a joint effort known as Project Benjamin. CSA will provide support and work collaboratively with the district to increase awareness of the FAFSA among key stakeholders, including the students, the parents, families, educators, and community partners. We will support the grant activity goals by increasing high school seniors completing the FAFSA while working through Project Benjamin. I know the board realizes we've been working hard to accommodate all our advanced placement courses and many of those specialized options that Chandler Schools offers in our online format. And we were pleased that we could find some program offerings to support the International Baccalaureate program that is unique to Chandler High School. And this is Pamoja. And this is the only international baccalaureate approved vendor on online courses, and then therefore it's a sole source provider. We are going to use it this year at Chandler High School, and we don't expect it to exceed $25,000. And it will be funded jointly through Chandler High and the district textbook budget. Chandler Unified uses digital resources aligned to the Arizona state standards. The list of websites, subscriptions, online applications, and software used in the district are being presented tonight in your packet. We provided an extended contracts list on June 10th. The following 3 contracts were omitted. We requesting approval, and these is for RESO, Ink Masters, printing, binding, design, and related services. That's we do much of that through the Kyrene School District Print Shop, Rhonda Ray, Reprographics, Century Graphics, Complete Print Shop, DNL Press, McPrint Direct Alpha Graphics. And some furniture, School Resource, School Specialty, Verco, Arizona Furnishings, Jake Kaiser Workspace, and Silver Street. We would use these contracts on an as-needed basis. White copy paper, this is Mr. Evans' most favorite item. We've solicited bids from suppliers to provide 8.5 by 11 bright white copy paper. 8 vendors responded. The recap is presented in your packet. The last paper purchase was in January of 2020 at $23.59 a case. The state currently does not have a contract. We're recommending approval of the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Liberty Paper, to provide 8,400 cases of white copy paper at $22.94 per case for a total of $192,696. With tax, it's $207,726.29. Human Resources, Employment, Separation, and Compensation recommend approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Castile, for presenting that. May I please have a motion for approval of our consent agenda?
Madam President, this is Dave Evans. I just wanted to make one quick correction or ask about a correction for the copy paper, of course. From Dr. Castillo, you said $192.96, and I think you meant $192,696.
I certainly did, and thank you, Mr. Evans, for catching that.
I wish I hadn't, because that would have been a really good price.
Yes. Well, I'll never forget your first meeting with the copy paper, and
yeah,
it was kind of mind-boggling.
Exactly. Thank you. So I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda as presented by Dr. Castillo.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam President, this is Lindsay, and I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Dr. Castile, I was just going to make a comment on the International Baccalaureate program and the online resources that we're going to be able to purchase for Chandler High School. I'm very, very glad that we are going to be able to offer this option for our IB students and IB diploma, but I do know that not every IB course that is available out there is not available online, and that is actually by directive from the International Baccalaureate program. They only allow certain courses to be taught online, and so those offerings are a little bit more restrictive than we would have hoped, but hopefully IB someday will offer more, but at this point in time, it's, I guess, the best we can do, and I'm glad we're able to expand the offering. Thank you.
Madam,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say, I heard that some teachers may be providing an alternative format for those courses that aren't included. Is that the case?
That's my understanding. I have to commend all the schools out there, especially the high schools, in trying to accommodate the advanced placement courses and all the requests. I know we've added a number. CTE courses have been added to the catalog, and I would just like to thank the principals, assistant principals, and all the teachers that came forward to help in that effort.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to our 5.01 action item, which is approval of the 2020-2021 budget. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, members of the governing board, in accordance with Arizona revised statutes, the district has advertised the preliminary budget and is requesting the board, after tonight's public hearing from earlier, to adopt the 2020-2021 proposed budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry.
You're welcome.
Could I please get a motion for this, and then we can finish asking our questions of Mrs. Berry?
Madam President, this is Dave Evans. I move that we approve the 2020-2021 proposed budget.
Do I have a second?
This is Lindsay. I will second, although I do want to say that in the recommended action, it says to adopt the 2019-2020 proposed budget. I don't know if you want to fix that,
Yes, sorry about that.
but I'll second.
Thank you. Good catch, Lindsay.
Thank you. Okay, so I know that Mr. Evans, do you have some questions? Let's go ahead and start with you, because I wasn't able to connect with you during the study session.
Actually, thank you for checking in on me. I was present during the entire study session, and I just wanted to say, I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Berry and her team, because the preparation for that is an ongoing task, and the effort to do something that's been very important to the board, and that's keeping the tax rate down, has been that's been in the forefront for years. So thank you for keeping that in mind for us, and doing such a great job at keeping that where we need it to be for our community.
Welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. So, Mrs. Berry, can we go back to a couple of things on your PowerPoint? One of them is about the 2% hold harmless. What kind of assumptions is that 2% based on? Meaning instructional models and things like that. What restrictions are in there? Does that mean 2% for in-person, not in-person, virtual, online, whatever? Can you explain that?
Question. Yes, great question. So our ADM, our average daily membership system, the laws that are around that have stayed in place. They have not changed because of COVID, and the legislature never came back into session. So how we count our ADM is day 1, day 100. And our what we call your addition, when you're brick and mortar, when you come every day, you're eligible for a 1.0 full-time equivalent called an FTE. If you attend our online, which every year we typically have about 200 full-time students who attend the Chandler online, those students are only eligible for 0.95 funding of a child, so they're not quite a full FTE. So this year, those statutes are still in place. So we're still going to count ADM. Any student who's in our Chandler online will still be counted actually as a 0.95 through the system that gets uploaded to ADE. Every child who's brick and mortar who will access our virtual, like a Google Classroom or the virtual model, will be counted actually as a 1.0 from the very beginning through that piece. So what's changed though is that when we don't calculate that full ADM, a child might go to our online school, then come back to our district schools. There's a lot of calculations that go on, and sometimes you lose funding during that or lose the full FTE. The governor knows that that's going to happen. So ultimately, he's going to utilize his stabilization funds to make sure that we don't take a decrease, and that's that 98%. Or if you're a growing school district, we want every student as a 1.0, because if we grow, we want to be able to access that funds during the current year. So that's why he's going to ultimately utilize our ADM, go back to our enrollment for both sides, and he'll look at both options. We'll apply, and we'll know which one is best for us, and we'll utilize that stabilization funds to either grow us or to ultimately hold us harmless up to 98%. Did that answer your question?
I think it did, yes. And then it's on your graphs, you were showing the tax rates of some of our neighboring districts. And I saw that, and this is kind of a very weird question, but in Tempe, we have the Kyrene Elementary District and we have the Tempe Union High School District. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that both of those had amounts that they were levying that were higher than ours. Mm-hmm. Do homeowners in those areas basically get taxed for both districts at that rate? And are their taxes a whole lot higher than ours then because of that?
So they are taxed ultimately up to that qualifying tax rate. So there's different amounts. If you're a high school, it's different than a consolidated district or an elementary. So those amounts are less. So it's a combination of an elementary and a high school. That's a different than a qualifying tax rate of a unified school district. So it is combined. They are getting taxed from both, but combined, it's very similar to ours. Ours is K through 12. Theirs is a span because the Union District is 9th through 12. The elementary Tempe Elementary, which is Kyrene, and then there's Tempe Elementary. There's two actually elementary school districts, and then there is the high school district. The high school district spans the entire Tempe area. The elementaries are in portions, so they're only taxed based on that elementary. But the qualifying tax rate is different for them because it's not a K through 12. So, but it is a combined. They get the high school that they go to and the elementary, and it is a tax for both. So yes, they're crossed.
So it is additive. Mm-hmm. If you lived in Kyrene, you're not only paying the Kyrene Elementary, but you're also paying the full
yes.
amount for the high school mm-hmm. district.
You are, yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
And then how are we? Obviously, we had summer school expenses. Even though we had we received additional funding, we did have to pay teachers to run our summer school program. How are we, when will we be adjusting for those additional staff members
Sure.
in our budget?
Great question. So part of the expense was in June because the payroll was from the beginning of June to the end June 30th. So part of that was accounted for in the 2019-2020 budget. So that was already in as part of the revision. And then the other portion that started in July and ends in the middle of July when summer school ended is in this budget. So that's in the line item of instruction, right on the first line of the budget within our maintenance and operations funds. Now, the revenue for that, for the ADM, is collected in this fiscal year. And so that's why you saw when you looked at that chart for ADM, we saw growth because all of our ADM is actually collected in this fiscal year. And the reason for that is they're not going to finalize all of that until November. And so they had us budget for those ADM numbers here in this fiscal year.
And can our budget from 2019 to 2020, was it able to handle that additional load of expenses for the instructors?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I believe, are there any other board members with additional questions concerning our budget? Mrs. McGee?
No questions at this time, thanks.
Okay, Mrs. Bruner?
No more than what I shared in the study session.
Okay, great. Ms. Love?
No, thank you.
Okay, and I assume, Mr. Evans, you haven't thought of one while I was asking questions, correct? Maybe connectivity problems. Okay, so we'll go ahead and there you are, Mr. Evans. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Any other questions for you?
No, actually, thank you for asking the question about Tempe Elementary and Tempe Union and Kyrene. So glad we have Mrs. Berry here because that would be a much longer explanation. So
Great. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving our 2020-2021 budget, please say aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. I do want to remind our board members that the budget is going to need to have your signatures on it, and you need to make arrangements with Mrs. Nye to come in to get your signatures done on the budget. So, and hopefully you can do that within the next couple of days in a safe manner. Our next is the approval is 5.02, approval of truth and taxation increase for fiscal year 2020-2021. Mrs. Berry, that's yours also.
Madam President, members of the board, so it is recommended that the governing board approve the truth and taxation tax increase as outlined in the attached notice. The notice was published on July 2nd, 2020 for Arizona revised statutes requirement identified in 15-90501 and 15-1461-01. A roll call is required on this as we go through the vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. I appreciate the reminder. So could I please get a motion from one of the board members for this item?
This is Laura Bruner. I move approval of truth and taxation increase for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Is there a second?
Dave Evans, I second.
Thank you, Laura and Mr. Evans. I appreciate it. Are there any questions for Mrs. Berry? I'm just going to make a comment. I struggle with this one each time we have this type of a increase for our adjacent ways, and it is a struggle for me because I think about individuals who are struggling, especially this time with all of the issues that we have with people losing jobs and in our economy and all. I personally, ultimately, am going to vote for approval on this. But I don't believe that this is, as I look through the sample taxes that various houses have had, it's not a huge increase. And since most people are having mortgages and have money taken out of their escrow, if you look at that on a monthly basis over the year, it's on one of let's say a $400,000 house, it's really about $1 a week or maybe $4 a month. And I do feel as though that this is a one-time tax to assist us with $4 million to improve the streets near the schools that we're building and get the utilities into them. It's something that's quite necessary and that is an option that we can utilize. Ultimately, this money would be coming from the taxpayers, as the only other alternative for this is bond money. And we pay much more interest on bond money, although it is distributed over a longer period of time that you have to pay back the money. So as I struggle with this, it's really 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but we don't have to pay interest on this money if we do it this way. So that's my comment.
Great point.
Are there any other questions from board members or any discussion?
This is Laura, and I just appreciate your comments, and I think it's a great point to make, to be as fiscally responsible as we can, and also take care of the neighborhoods and all the people that came in and talked to us about their concerns about the traffic around the schools, and to make sure that we do right by the communities where we place our schools. So I think that's another thing we have to consider with this.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruner. I do appreciate that, because it does allow us to really do the proper thing with the streets and not have to, and without having, I don't want to say we would cut corners, but there's not the temptation to then, and we can do the right thing. So I think it helps a lot to be able to do the right thing. So thank you. If not, we'll go ahead and vote and do a roll call. Vote, I will, let's see, Mr. Evans, I'll call for your vote.
Okay, yes.
Ms. Love,
Yes.
Mrs. Mcgee,
Yes.
Mrs. Bruner,
Yes.
and myself, yes. The motion carries 5-1. We will now move on to our information items. And Mrs. Berry, you have a large performance this evening. We will be looking at our student activity and auxiliary operations and tax credit reports.
Madam President, members of the board, the student activities, auxiliary operations, and tax credit reports for the months ending July 2019 through June of 2020 are provided for your review.
Do any board members have any questions about these? Mrs. Berry, do you expect to see any corrections that are done to these? Because I see that they are actually for ending last fiscal year. And do you anticipate corrections?
Madam President, great questions. Yes, we actually will have some opportunities to make sure there are some slightly negative accounts, some different things that have to be moved. And we have time to fix that before our annual financial report. So they will slightly change to make sure as we meet with principals, athletic directors, or sponsors to fix a few of those. We have a lot of accounts within the number of schools that we have, but we have a couple of months to fix those as we finish paying bills and as amounts come in to finalize each account. So they will slightly change, not drastically, but there will be some slight changes.
And then will that come back to us with those changes over the next couple of months? I can't imagine that we're going to see a tremendous number of student activity, auxiliary, and tax credit accounts for the month of July, but I assume that we will then have this brought back to us to take a look at for those final numbers, and you'll let us know when that's the final, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Okay. Our next item is going to be for Dr. Gilbert, and this is Center for Educator Recruitment, Retention, and Advancement Adoption, CTE Education Professions Program at Castile High School. Oh, I guess Mr. Rother is doing it.
I think I have that one tonight. President Mausden, members of the governing board, Dr. Castile, good evening. So our first, I've got, I think, the next three. So the first one is the Center for Education Recruitment, Retention, and Advancement, otherwise known as SARA, Experiencing Education. It's a model for homegrown teacher recruitment. Copyright 2017 is a resource for the Career and Technical Education, CTE, Education Professions Program. The Education Professions Program was taught in the past at Basha and Hamilton High Schools using a previous edition of the SARA curriculum. This will be the first year Castile High School will offer the Education Professions Program. The SARA curriculum is aimed at attracting the best and brightest students to the teaching profession. Its mission is to encourage students who possess exemplary interpersonal and leadership skills to consider teaching as a career, and provides the opportunity for schools and districts to identify and recruit homegrown teachers and educators. In accordance with ARS 15721, the curriculum will be placed on display for the 60-day public review period for comment at the Melinda Romero Instructional Resource Center starting July 16th, 2020. After the 60-day review period for public comment, the curriculum will be presented for approval. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rother. Are there any questions from some of our board members?
Madam President, this is Lindsay, and I do have one question.
Yes,
what
certainly.
does recruitment look like for a program like this? Like, I know that there's a lot of like buzzwords like best and brightest, but you know, how does that look?
The specifics of the recruitment, Ms. Love, I can't speak to the specifics of how each school recruits the students for this program. My guess would be as most CTE programs, it's really up to the teacher to get out there and promote their program and try to find students that can be successful and also have an interest in that program. So in terms of a district-wide recruitment, I'm not aware that we do anything consistent between the 2 or now 3 schools, but it's likely up to the teacher to identify students and promote their program within the school.
I guess I'm just kind of thinking too about like the equity component. I just saw a news story about the lack of Black teachers or teachers of color in general. And I'm just wondering if a curriculum like this, or in the recruitment of a curriculum like this, will support in getting more diverse teachers in the field, because it does have an impact on our students and their feelings of, you know, feeling welcomed in the classroom environment and, you know, decreasing that push out.
If I may add, one of the things that is done within our district that we start with all of our 8th graders, as I know that we've shared some with our board, has to do with the recruitment in regards to CTE, where we take all of our 8th graders to our high schools and we really make sure that they have an opportunity to see all of the CTE programs, these programs that are available to be able to be offered to our students, which assist students in getting involved in being able to see these programs as well.
I just, it sounds like a wonderful program. I just kind of want to know, or, you know, just some information on how we're developing or how we're defining best and brightest. Like, you don't have to give that to me right now, but I think maybe that just needs to be a future conversation as we're rolling out programs like this, and what each recruiter is deeming best and brightest, and, you know, if it aligns with our equity goals.
Absolutely. We can get you a little bit more information on how the teachers are recruiting for those programs.
Thank you, Mr. Rother.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from board members? Mrs. Bruner?
Yes, I just wanted to say how thankful I am to Michelle Caprati and the other folks that have worked on this to try to make this happen. We know that there's going to be a drop-off of teachers very soon in Arizona, with I think about a third of the teaching force coming up for retirement. So I think this is vital that we try to start early with students to direct them towards, you know, one of the most noble professions. And as someone who's visited ASU in the last couple of years on recruiting days, there's not very many students showing up for the Mary Lou Fulton program at ASU, and there are other programs, obviously. But it is concerning if you look at who's entering the force. So I think if we could expand this even to some of the other campuses, that would be a great way to assist ourselves and other districts, obviously, as well, for the future.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruner. Mr. Evans, I saw your little circle flashing a little bit, so I think you had a question.
Right. Thank you, Madam President. So actually, since Dr. Gilbert is on, because you might have more familiarity with the program than Mr. Rother, since you were a principal at high school that didn't offer it. I guess I'm a little confused. Like everyone else said, this is a great idea, great concept. We do recruitment in some other areas like International Baccalaureate and even AP classes. But I guess I just need a little picture of what the curriculum would entail for a program like this, because I think of other career and technical classes and they're really hands-on, but I guess I'm a little confused as how students who are homegrown, potential teachers and educators, show leadership skills, are hands-on when they technically can't really be hands-on with students in the classroom as a 16, 17, 18-year-old. I guess I'm not, I guess a better formulation of the question is, what does the focus of the curriculum look like?
So, Mr. Evans, this is Larry again. I can answer a little bit of that, at least to what the difference might be between the early childhood program, like something at a Chandler High School, as opposed to the childhood education to this sort of education professions program, the one that we're talking about at Hamilton, Basha, now Castile. But one of the requirements of the early childhood program is that students are linked up with an early childhood program. So the Little Express program at Chandler, our ECE students would go into those that setting and be able to observe and work with students and talk with the teacher. One of the differences with the education professions program is that there isn't the early childhood requirement. It's a K-12 requirement. So they actually can do some classroom observations right there on the high school campus. So it's not as geared towards early childhood as it is the overall teaching profession. So those are, if you kind of puts it in perspective, the difference between the early childhood and the teacher professions program, educator professions programs, that's I think a decent way to frame the two.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rother. So that makes sense. But then from an academic standpoint, again, the focus, would it be on writing skills, generalist skills, so that you're able to actually, because the focus is, the ultimate goal is really to move on to a Mary Lou Fulton College of Education, from what I understand.
Yeah, I don't know if Dr. Gilbert has more information about this particular curriculum or not, but because it is a generalist program, at least what I've seen with CT programs, they're honing in on specific skills that could be applied to the K-12 setting. So students are prepared when they do enter the teacher prep programs at our post-secondary school.
Okay. All right.
And this is Mr. Gilbert. Unfortunately, I don't have more to share, but we could get more information for you.
Okay. I go back to when I was in high school. We went to school other students all went to school only 3 hours a day. So my dad sent me to boarding school. My mom and dad sent me to boarding school. So when I turned 16, when I turned 17, I got my driver's license. Since my dad was a superintendent, what did he do? He decided he didn't like the fact that I would be hanging out at home. So he had the authority and the audacity to put me on the substitute list. So at 17 years old, I started subbing, and oftentimes I had high school students in chemistry lab or whatever, wherever they'd throw me. And I didn't really have any training for this, I guess, is what my point is. But how would what would that training have looked like? So yeah, if we could get more information down the road, so that it would be structured, so we could understand the structure, as opposed to, I don't want my kid, hanging out, so he's going to go substitute. The other one other quick addition to that would be, again, I always talk about this because I know this big word, articulation. So do our students or do our educators with a program like this work with, I know the community colleges have an education component in their programs in order to recruit and move forward, advance people who have an interest in education, so that they can move to a four-year university to acquire a teaching teaching degree and teaching expertise.
I can't speak to specifically how that happened, but as you know, I can speak in general to our CT programs. It is a component that they bring in guest speakers, and they bring in folks from higher education, the community in that field to speak with students. So I know that articulation is happening. I can't speak to the specifics because I think probably each program is a little bit different at the sites because those teachers have some autonomy on who they partner with, but that is certainly happening.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Evans, maybe since this is going to be at the Melinda Romero Resource Center, you know, we as board members can also head on over there and take a look and review the curriculum and kind of find out what resources they're using, what type of activities, and what's the focus of the curriculum. And we can, you know, kind of get a feel for what our kids are doing. So.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roth, yeah, is someone trying to come in? Okay, I think somebody just had a microphone on, so there was some feedback. Next is 6.03, and that is our Skills USA Career Essential Suite adoption. Mr. Rother.
Yes. So the Skills USA Career Essential Suite is a resource for our CTE program, graphics design program. The Skills USA Career Essential Suite offers both online and offline learning, including but not limited to pre and post tests, instructor-led kickoffs, e-learning modules addressing career readiness, content and activities that contribute to project completion. The curriculum generates high levels of student engagement and it's built on evidence-based outcomes that support the industry-recognized career essential credentials. During these challenging times, Skills USA is offering complimentary student seats to the Skills USA Career Essentials online courses for the fall semester. It's a great thing. After this, course ranges from $15 to $20 per student. Any student subscriptions purchased after the complimentary period will be budgeted through the site funds. In accordance with ARS 15721, the curriculum will be placed on display for the 60-day public review period for comment at the Melinda Romero Instructional Resource Center starting July 16th, 2020. After the 60-day review period for public comment, the curriculum will be presented for approval. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rother. Are there any questions from our board members? Mr. Evans?
Mr. Rother, I'm sorry. So Skills USA, your school especially has had a fantastic record of success with that program. And especially, I know you've had many officers who have been diverse students in our community. Really, really successful. How do we move this timeline up? Because 60 days before we get to request approval is 60 days too long. We know this is a great program, and we need to be recruiting and moving students into it right now.
I don't know if I can answer that, how to move up the timeline. I know that our teachers are very familiar with the Skills USA curriculum, so regardless of if we have the online access or not, I know they are very familiar with it, and it's embedded in the courses that they teach. And so I don't know if we can move the timeline up, but certainly our teachers will be happy to get it when they do.
And this is just the graphic design portion of it, correct? That we have not offered previously?
Correct.
Okay, so it's a separate module that needs to be approved individually. Okay. Are there any other questions, Ms. Love?
I don't have any other questions, but it does sound great, and I concur with Mr. Evans. Sounds like a wonderful program that we need right now. So that's all I got.
Okay. Ms. Bruner or Mrs. Mcgee?
I did have one question. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Karen.
I don't have any questions, thanks.
Mrs. Bruner?
Is there a way that we could look at what the curriculum already is, find the overlap in the online curriculum, and at least permit them to use what is already in the in-class curriculum and then any differences they have to put off on? Or does it have to be entire? Because it really seems like it's more of a modality thing than a curriculum.
You know, I'd have to do a little research on that to see what's the difference between the online program and the curriculum that we already have approved for Skills USA. I'd have to do a little research on that to see what we can allow teachers access to immediately.
Okay, just if we can, I mean, with the 60-day process, it's just so long when, you know, hopefully we're going to be getting a lot of kids in the online, so.
Absolutely.
All right. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to our grades 7 through 12 English language learner curriculum. Mr. Rother.
Yes, another one transitioning to online. So the Chandler Unified School District uses curricula aligned to the Arizona State standards in order to meet the diverse learning needs of our students. Houghton Mifflin Hardcourt's English 3D program is designed for English language learners by accelerating the academic language for students in grades 7 through 12. The evidence-based instruction and text in English 3D provides daily speaking and writing opportunities for students to engage in content area classes, college, and beyond. The program includes digital resources as well as interactive print resources that can be used at home. Resources for parents and families are also provided in both English and Spanish. The anticipated cost is $67,200, including tax, shipping, and handling, funded through the district textbook budget. In accordance with ARS 15721, the curriculum will be placed on display for the 60-day public review period for comment at the Melinda Romero Instructional Resource Center starting July 16th, 2020. After the 60-day review period, the public comment and curriculum will be presented for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Rother. Are there any questions? Shall we start with Mr. Evans? He popped out.
Mr. Rother, welcome in. I'm so sorry. but you know what? Dr. Nance is kind of hanging out in the background, so I think she can help with this question, but I'm going to ask it to you.
Sure.
Okay. So this program is designed for grades 7 through 12. Do we have an existing program, or are we looking at a program for younger students? Kind of evidence-based instruction, something that families can work with because there are resources provided.
You know, we have Read 180, and we also have what is it? Speak 44. Sorry, I'm sorry, Systems 44. That service right now are English language learners that are in use at our sites. Frankly, I'll have to do a little research to see at what levels we offer those. I know we offer them at the 7-12 level. I'm not sure if we offer them at the elementary level, but we're not getting rid of any of our existing programs with this addition. And this addition does support those two programs as well and integrates with them. I don't know what programs at the K-6 level. Maybe Dr. Nance has a better idea of that, but I can certainly get you that information.
She must be typing a lot right now because, because I haven't got a heads up yet. So sorry.
No worries. Typically at our K-3, we're using a couple of products. Our classrooms are set up with SEI teachers, so we are doing some instruction on the fluency with them, with those beginning reading skills. So there's not an actual program, but then we fill it in. We do have an Alexia as an intervention with some of our ELD students, but the core instruction comes from the teacher. So this was meant to supplement students who are getting more fluent in the English language, but they're lacking on the academic application. So those academic terms relevant to when you're learning social studies and science. So this program was something that we met with the secondary principals and some of the ones who had the higher populations to see how we could increase their success now that it's been reduced from a 4-hour block to a 2-hour block of time, and they're back in with their main general ed population.
Okay, and the key thing being academic-based instruction or learning as opposed to whatever was happening in those 4-hour blocks.
Conversational type language, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And this program actually was developed by Kate Kinsella, who is one of the leading researchers in our ELD strategies that we train the teachers on.
Okay. And then once again, we're very familiar with that group, and why do we need to wait 60 days? That's October. That's not a real question, just a thought.
It's statute, Mr. Evans. What can I say?
Now.
Are there any other questions? Mrs. Bruner?
I did just have one more. The pen where be used to assist the as well, or used like a way to assign homework to students who are in person, or is it only for online?
Ms. Bruner, could you repeat the question one more time? It kind of broke up a little bit.
Sure. Can this software be used to enhance in-person programs as well, maybe as a kind of thing, well, being used for the online program?
I think you're asking me, can it be used in the classroom as well as remotely? Is that correct?
Yes, or as homework for someone.
So it can be used for assignments and personalized instruction. I don't see why it couldn't be used in the classroom as long as the teacher has access in the classroom to it, and if students had devices in the classroom, if they're working personalized, I don't see why it couldn't be used in the classroom.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Mcgee, do you have any questions? Ms. Love?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Love?
I don't have any questions at this time, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rother, for giving us all the information on these items, and I assume we will see them on our consent agenda in 60 days. So thank you. Our next is Superintendent Comments. Dr. Castile.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board. I know this will be familiar to you. This Saturday, the volunteers from the 4-Hour City will be safely conducting Operation Back to School. As you know, this program provides backpacks, clothing, school supplies, and this year they've added masks to our students. The concept will be much different than in the past, where the location was at one site and they even had booths for haircuts, and it was quite an event. This year, the volunteers will be following the safety model of our established CUSD Food and Nutrition Department. As you know, they've been distributing about 65,000 meals a week with safe curbside service. And now the people will, those locations, by the way, are Chandler, Basha High, Anderson, and Willis Junior Highs. Volunteers are going to follow our trucks. They'll go right along with them. They'll wash their hands regularly, wearing gloves and masks. And I just want to thank them. They're under the organization of Victor Hardy, Pastor Victor Hardy, and they've just done a tremendous amount of work to provide these materials to our students. I would like to, once again, in my closing comments, just acknowledge the frustration and the concern, the anger and the fear that is a result of this COVID-19 pandemic. And I know the board knows that we share those feelings, and we see evidence of the feelings in our emails, social media, our phone calls, phone messages. And I think I did it the last time. I just want to apologize for not responding to each and every email. Many of the emails are asking multiple questions, and sometimes it's just a bit overwhelming. But we did develop frequently asked questions on the website, and I wanted the community to know that we are updating those regularly. We just put a few more in special education, on the health resources. I believe the online catalog has been updated, so that might be a good source. When we get those questions and those emails, we are keeping track of them, so when we get multiple similar questions, we are addressing it on the website. While the volume does get overwhelming, I want to assure the community and that I, as well as my team, are reading every one of them. And I know sometimes at the end, someone will say, if you got to the end, or questioning whether we might have even read them. But trust me, it's a good source of information and certainly helps us take a read on our community. I wanted to share also that we will be working with our teachers to clarify the options for returning to work to prepare for the start of school. My letter certainly wasn't precise enough. That was not the intent of the letter when it first started out. It really was about some of the childcare challenges I'd been hearing about for the 2 or 3 weeks prior, and wanted to reach out and give them some comfort in that arena. It kind of went sideways on us, but we will be communicating out more precise organization and what we'd like to have happen. We have, and I assure the board we have, and will continue to make accommodations for our staff. We've been making them throughout the summer. I would like to thank the 90% of our families who have made a selection for their children's education, either through our virtual to in-person model or the online model. Our schools will be following up with the 10% who we've not heard from for a variety of reasons, and our schools are busy doing that. I believe I heard earlier today when I was at Perry High that they had a couple hundred more was all they had left to call. So I know the schools are just working really hard to try to make sure all our families have had an opportunity. We have a number of new families that have moved into the area and have enrolled, and I just plead for their patience. The schools now are open, phones are being answered, and sometimes they're coming in my office. There might be 2 on hold. I would just ask for you to be patient or call us back. We did add a second receptionist to help Teresa in the front because of the volume. We want to answer your questions. We want to get you solutions. And again, just thank you for the ongoing patience and kindness that many of you have extended. The real work of staffing our classes, our in-person and online classes, has begun. We hope in the next day or so to notify the teachers that have asked to be in the online program, to let them know that we're able to accommodate that, and the teachers that want to be in person. So we'll try to get some of that notification out so our staff have plenty of time to get their mindset, and we'll go forward. In addition, one of the high stress points right now is the next several days is focusing on our support staff. And we have several hundred whose jobs, they don't really start until our students return to school. And in a normal year, they would return to school in the physical setting. The biggest example of that is our bus drivers. And so as we start school this year and until we open in person, we don't need them to drive buses. But we are really committed and working hard to redeploy them, find them meaningful work in the weeks ahead. So I want to assure them, I think I mentioned it in the letter I sent out to the staff, but we have already redeployed some people, and we're working real hard to do that. I don't want them to think they've been forgotten. In closing, with the litany of unanswered questions, and there are many, or changing answers that I think we all see during this COVID-19, and the perspectives and the answers and the solutions from experts and change. One thing has become crystal clear, and I don't know that we have a hope of reaching consensus on when we should open school, how our schools should function, what do we expect of our students, what do we expect of our staff, what do you expect of the superintendent. I don't know that we can reach consensus on that. But one thing I think all of us can agree to is the goal to keep everyone healthy and safe, and to provide the highest quality education that our families have come to expect, and Chandler has delivered over the course of years. We are not perfect, and no one knows that more than I'd say the school board and the administration and the team that gets to up at this level, that sees all the results and knows where our weaknesses are. But we continue to feel blessed in a community that is passionate and supportive. They're willing to share their opinions, and it means a great deal. And every community in the nation can't say that. Chandler, the community of Chandler has always stood behind us. The Chandler Schools community has always stood behind us. We haven't always agreed. And I want to thank so many of you have been kind and respectful and thoughtful. Even though you're passionate, may not agree with the direction we're going. I just appreciate the kindness and the respect that we are experiencing at this level. And again, it's probably getting old for me to say, just thank you for your patience. We are addressing your issues, and as things change, we will keep you informed. And thank the board for your patience. I know that sometimes we cause you more work. So thank you, Madam President, members of the board.
Thank you, Dr. Castile. Do any of our board members have something to say? Mrs. Bruner.
I have nothing tonight, thanks.
Ms. Love.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Castile for her words. I also wanted to say thank you to Adama Salu. She participated in the Arizona School Board Association's Black Alliance training series on SROs and safety. It's always great when we can pull CUSD staff into those trainings. And she did a phenomenal job. It was a very intense conversation, of course. And I, will post the link. Of course, it is on the ASBA's website as well. So thank you, Dr. Salu, for that. And I also want to, acknowledge our teachers for their patience during this time as well. They're having to adapt to the new world, and, they're feeling pretty beat up. Right now, and a loss of morale and not feeling supported and feeling like they are being pitted against the children. A lot of them got into this field because they love working with children. They love teaching children, want to keep them safe. And I think that's something that we need to acknowledge, that, our teachers are important. They're a part of this community, and we love and value them. So thank you to our teachers here in our district and across the state for being patient with us and, advocating as well for yourselves and students and families. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Love. Mrs. Mcgee?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Madam President. I actually wanted to talk after you did, just because I am anticipating what you might say, but Dr. Castile said a lot of it. So I'm just gonna go straight to one of the groups of letters and emails we've been inundated with in the last 2 days, and that's from teachers. I believe that we need to start school as soon as possible. I'm going to say that, and let me preface that though. We don't need to start school and put anybody at risk right now, but you got into this, and I'm not lecturing anybody, but as an educator, you got into this profession because of your talent and your ability to transfer knowledge and build and get more out of your students. That needs to start, in my mind, as soon as possible. Can we be flexible on making sure that you can deliver and build your relationships in a way that keeps you safe? I think we can, and I think we need to do that because you're our most valuable resource when it really comes down to it. We have to find a way to do that makes you feel comfortable, but at the same time, we absolutely need you to begin to work in your craft and do the things that you're so talented and such an expert at. You're experts. We need to value your ability and your creativity, and we need to step up and be more creative as well so that we can help you do your job in a manner that you see as safe, in a manner that you see as getting started and getting your students, getting your students' synapses going. It's not the right words, but getting your students thinking again, being creative again, and acquiring knowledge again. We have to figure out a way to do that. And I appreciate, and I'm sure we all do, all of the emails. And I honestly can tell you we're committed to making your start to the school year as safe as possible. And we just have to be more creative to find a way to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I also want to express my deep appreciation for all of our teachers. I also want to say that I truly appreciate all of the emails that I have gotten. Probably haven't read the ones that have come through since about 4:30 this afternoon, but I do read each one of them, and I know that we have a tremendous diversity of opinions throughout the district, and I look at the solutions that we look for, and we have 46,000 students, and I think that it's almost like we're being asked to have 46,000 different solutions. So it's a difficult situation. But I kind of building on what Mr. Evans said, all of our school board members are part of the leadership team within our district. And in conjunction with the superintendent and her cabinet, board members need to work very closely with both the superintendent, Dr. Castile, and her cabinet to create the policies and procedures that provide the environment for all students to achieve their potential. Respectful and intelligent conversations between board members and administration, along with critical thinking skills, brainstorming solutions, and understanding the underlying constraints of the proposed solutions are vital to our wise decisions. And those decisions impact not only our students, but our staff members, our families of both of those, and our community. Working together, all of our board members should be focusing on creative and effective solutions for all of our students, not just a few. The COVID pandemic has definitely upended our normal. It has created a tremendous anxiety for everyone. It has polarized our parents, our school board, the politicians, and almost everyone in the country. Issues about wearing masks, not wearing masks, reporting to work, not reporting to work, in-person instruction, virtual instruction, all of those have their supporters and all of them have their opponents, but we have to work together to find solutions for everyone. Now more than ever, school board members need to work closely with the CUSD administration and each other to support the mission of the Chandler Unified School District, to foster innovation and develop solutions that continue to reflect our philosophy in Chandler Unified, that we are a district of choice, a premier district of choice. Chandler knows that choice makes us stronger and better able to meet the needs of individual children in our community. Our district is diverse, and diversity is strength. Diversity fosters innovation and results in better solutions to problems. True school board leadership is about working with your district colleagues, listening, collaborating, brainstorming, all of those things, and innovating and coming up with workable solutions for all. I hope each one of my fellow board members is willing to renew their commitment to working as a team with their fellow board members and with our administrators. With that, thank you for attending our meeting this evening, and the meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.